But first, there are less than 24 hours until the first polls close on Election Day. CBS News officially considers Senate races in 5 states to be true toss-ups. Those are Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and Wisconsin. Americans in most U.S. states and territories have been able to vote early for several weeks. And as of Monday, more than 43 million Americans have already cast their ballots, either in person or via mail. Over the weekend, President Biden gave his final pitch to voters on the campaign trail. He made stops in California, Illinois, New York, and Pennsylvania, where once again he reiterated his belief that if Republican election deniers win, it will corrode American democracy. We have a team of correspondents on the ground covering many of these races, and we'll start with CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion, who's been covering both the gubernatorial and Senate races down in Georgia. Nikole, we've been thinking about this question of a runoff in the Senate race between Herschel Walker and Senator Warnock. Senator Warnock's been through one of these before. What are the chances we're going to see another runoff possibly in this race?
Well, I'd say the odds for predicting that are just about as difficult as the odds of predicting whether or not somebody's going to win the Powerball. But, you know, if the campaigns had it their way, I mean, we're obviously at Herschel Walker's rally right now. We were with Senator Warnock earlier. Both of them would not like for this to go to a runoff. They want to be able to win this outright. But the reality is their polling numbers have just been so tight. They've been locked in a statistical tie for days, if not weeks now. So it really is quite possible that this could go to a runoff. You know, I talked to Florida Senator Rick Scott, who's the chairman of the NRSC. He's pretty confident that Herschel Walker will not face a runoff. He says based on their internal polling numbers, he thinks that he can win outright. Of course, that was soundly refuted when I put that question to Senator Raphael Warnock earlier today, asking him if he thought this race would go to a runoff. And to respond to Senator Scott, he said he expects to win. So, again, really could go either way.
Nikole, there's nothing more deceptive than the kind of vibe and feeling at the last couple of rallies before Election Day, but I'll ask it anyway. What's the feeling there at the Walker event you're at?
Well, you know, this is probably, I mean, there's a decent-sized crowd here, and, you know, this is kind of what we have seen in these final days as Herschel Walker tries to make his closing arguments to voters. You know, he has really tried to turn the page away from the allegations and headlines he has faced throughout the course of his campaign and really kind of drilled down on his opponent and tying him to President Biden, and that has gotten a lot of applause. You know, he's got a lot of surrogates with him tonight. For instance, he's got Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. You know, in terms of Senator Warnock, he's got a lot of energy and enthusiasm on his side as well. He was out campaigning in his hometown of Savannah over the weekend with filmmaker Spike Lee. He was in Macon earlier today where he had a fairly robust crowd. He was joined by Senator John Ossoff, his fellow Democratic senator from Georgia. So, look, both of them, of course, are doing everything they can to try to get the vote out in these final hours. And of course, here in Georgia, as you know, early voting has hit an all-time high here in this state with more than 2.5 million people casting their ballots in early voting.
And briefly, Nikole, what are you hearing about the gubernatorial contests between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp?
Well, again, you know, both campaigns, and I know you've kind of been down this road before many times, John, you know, everybody is going to talk up and be confident going into Election Day. And so this is no different in the gubernatorial contest. Now, granted, a lot of polls have shown Brian Kemp with the edge over his rival, Stacey Abrams. But, you know, Stacey Abrams' campaign manager told reporters earlier today that she is very confident that at minimum they might be able to get to this race to a runoff, if not potentially win it outright. And they argue that because of the robust early voting turnout, they feel very confident in the numbers and what they are seeing there in terms of demographics. That's something Stacey Abrams reiterated to me in our interview last week. But Governor Brian Kemp is pretty popular in this state, and he does have a political machine behind him. He's also here in Kennesaw tonight, not campaigning with Herschel Walker, I would note, but holding holding his own kind of election rally with a number of candidates up and down the ballot here in the state. So again, both campaigns, at least on the surface, are projecting confidence as they go into this final round.
And that might be interesting in the end that Kemp and Walker are not campaigning together, but we'll figure that out when the results come in. Nikole Killion in Kennesaw, Georgia, thank you.